for tonight's invitation, I'd like to share just a couple things that I have pretty recently came across. And the first one is a very interesting study that's been going on with chickens. And there's a study that's going on with these chicks that have been hatched from eggs that were laid by chickens who have been their entire life raised indoors. And the chickens that raised these eggs were also chicks from eggs that were raised by chickens that were indoors, and so on and so forth. So we're seeing a lot of generational chickens that are being raised indoors. No pressure from predators of the outside, no influence of anything bad. They're living completely comfortable. Like I said, there's no fear for life. These chickens pretty well got it made, I guess you could say. But the study on these chicks, like I said, who are generational chicks that have been raised indoors, the study was when these chicks are in the little area where they roam around free, the scientists who are conducting this study are taking kites or something tied by a string that flies over the chicks, and they do them in different shapes. And they'll fly a triangle shape over these chicks, and the chicks are unfazed. And they'll do a square shape. The chicks are completely unfazed. And a circle shape will go across the top of the heads of these chicks, and they'll be completely unfazed. But when they cut out a piece of this material that they're making all these shapes out of, in the perfect shape of what a hawk would look like if it was flying over the top of these chicks' head, as soon as that shape of the hawk comes across these chicks, the chicks scatter and run for cover. These chicks have never seen a hawk. Their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents have never seen a hawk of any kind. And yet it has brought these scientists to believe that it is encoded in their DNA and their genetics to fear whatever they see this shape as. They realize that it is danger. And of course they have all these theories and studies and stuff like that, but really the basic answer that we could have all came to a conclusion pretty quick is that that's how they are designed by God to be. That is their genetic makeup, that God designed these chicks for their protection to run from these things, just the same as it is designed by God to the hawk to be able to prey upon these things. And so that led me to the question, are we encoded in our DNA? Is it our genetic makeup to follow God, to believe in God? We're made in His image. Is there a God-sized hole in our heart that needs to be filled? And I believe there is, and I think that hole is called free will. We have a hole in our heart that we are free to do with whatever it is. God would love us to follow Him and choose His path. Some of us don't. Some of us choose science and the words of men. Some of us choose drugs and alcohol. That idea of a God-sized hole in our heart came from an interview. This is the second thing that I came across. Came from an interview that was somebody was talking to a famous rock star from the 70s and 80s. His name was Alice Cooper. And he said that during this time of his stardom, he's seen people and known people who were personally affected by drugs. He said they were just not happy. They kept on trying to fill this void that they had. They know they had, and they tried to fill it with cheap thrills. And even himself was an alcoholic, and he was into material things like houses and cars. And he said at the end of all that, all the drug use, all of the alcoholic benders that he was on, all the material things that he bought, he said at the end of all that, there was still nothing. And it was his quote that I got my line from was, it's like there is a God-sized hole in all of our hearts. And he said later on in this interview, and he eventually ended up coming to Christ in his later years, he said, I tell you one thing, when Jesus opens your eyes and you finally realize who you are and who He is, it is a whole different world. And I have to agree with Alice Cooper on that. I think there is a God-sized hole in our heart. I think it's purposely put there, and I think it is definitely best if we fill this hole with nothing more than God and nothing of this world. And like Jesus says, He says, I stand at the door and knock, and He does that tonight. He knocks to enter in. He wants to be in your life. He wants to be in your heart. He wants you to follow Him and leave the ways of this world. If you have once became a Christian, He still knocks. If you've fallen away, He still wants to be a part of your life, and He wants you to let Him enter into your heart like you should have done maybe the first time you found that it wasn't as easy as it should have been to let go of the things of the world. And like I said, He stands at the door and knocks. If there's any need for anybody this evening, we'd like for you to make it known as we stand and as we sing.